Hey everybody, Z Garcia here, and today we're going to be traveling to Paris in the late 1800s to build the finest buildings and make sure they are lit just right in Paris, the City of Lights. This is a game for exactly 2 players, in which both players are first going to be taking turns building up the streets, the cobblestone streets, and then they're going to be erecting buildings on those streets in order to score glory, victory points. You want those buildings ideally connected to one another and also in the best location, surrounded by street lamps so that they can be seen and appreciated. So that's the general idea here. We're going to go ahead and take a look at how the game works. I'm going to come on back after that, tell you what I think of it, and give you some more final thoughts. So the game's going to be played over 2 different phases, and at the end of those, we're going to do the scoring. I'll show you that in a little bit. During each part of the game, part 1 and part 2, you're going to get to, on your turn, do one of 2 different actions. So part 1, let's start there. Each player has one of these tiles from the stack that they've shuffled and drawn one from, and then you are ready to begin with everything else being set up. So the 2 choices you have on your turn at the beginning are you can A, play your tile that you're holding, your cobblestone pieces, onto the map here anywhere you want to, and then draw a new one, or you can instead take one of these buildings and place it in your supply to be used later on, with all of them, as you can see, having different configurations, and they represent buildings you're going to be putting into play. These are going to show you the different types of cobblestones that the players can build on. So they're going to have different colors. The blue represents me, and I'll be able to build on those spaces. The orange is my opponent's over there. And then purple, well, we can both build on purple. You're also going to see some tiles show these street lights. And these are going to be very important for scoring. You're going to want your buildings around these street lights because that's how they're going to score the big points. So I'll go ahead and pick one and I'll build it right here like so. And then I'll draw a new one. My opponent over here will take theirs. That's a good one for them. They're going to put it right here like so. They'll take one. And again, you can put these anywhere you want to. I could put this, way over here if I wanted to. But for right now, I'm going to put that right there. Take that. My opponent might go and they'll play here like so. And now on my turn, I'm thinking, okay, I might have a good spot there on which to build. So I'm going to draft one of these tiles. And I'm going to take, this one here. And place that in my supply. And I did not play out a tile this turn, so I don't need to draw one. Goes back to my opponent. And we're going to continue doing this until we have both run out of these tiles. Once that's done, we're going to move into stage 2. So let me jump the game forward a little bit here and show you how that works. The first part of the game is now over, and each player has played all of their street tiles onto the board here and drafted some tiles. So my opponent has these 4. I've taken 4 as well. There are some that did not get taken. They're going to sit there in the pool. They might come into play. I ran out of these street tiles first, so I'm going to get to play first in the second stage in the game, which is important. And during that second stage, we again each have 2 actions we can do on our turn. The first action, take one of your tiles, add it to the board somewhere, such as there, for example, and then put one of your chimneys on it to denote it's your building. So that is the first possible action. Second action, use one of your 4 markers here to claim one of the postcards and the special power associated with it. So that's basically it. We're going to continue until we've each done as much of that as we can. We each have 4 of these, so we're going to take 4 of the postcards per player. So each of us will have 4. Whether we can use them or not, we'll each take 4. And you can sometimes do these things just to block your opponent. I'll explain what they all do as I'm talking you through this second part. So I'll go ahead and start, and I think my very first thing is going to be to place... let's see, this is a very thinky game here. So I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to place it here like so. I'm going to do that, put my chimney on it, and I'm done. It's my opponent's turn now. And again, I can only play on blue or purple. And my opponent will now go. They can only play on orange or purple. And they are going to play... they're going to play this. And they're going to play it... let's see. They're going to play that here, let's say. This might not be ideal right now. I'm trying to play for 2 people, but that's what they'll do. Comes back to me, and again, I have that choice of playing one of these or playing one of my buildings out there. I'm going to go ahead and play this one out there, right here. Put it right there, and I'll put a chimney on it, and it is my opponent's turn. This will continue, okay? The different postcards. Let's say my opponent plays, they do something. I don't know what they'll do, but they'll do something smart like that. I don't know how smart that is, but they'll do that. And then it's me. So I'm going to claim one of the postcards. I'd like to claim, for example, this one. That postcard there is a building extension. And I'm going to take one of my tokens, I'm going to put it on there, and I'm going to claim this building extension. I can add it to one of the buildings already in place. And it has to go on my color, of course, and it extends that building by 1. Once I've done that, I can actually flip the postcard over to show some wonderful artwork and leave my token on it like that. Goes back to my opponent. Once we've taken them all and we've done as much as we can, then we are going to score the game. So let me talk about that, the way scoring works. There's a couple of different parts to this. The first one, for each building, you're going to score the size of the building times the number of street lines that shine on it. So for example, if we're taking a look at this one, I'm going to lay down that chimney. It is made up of, including the extension, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 building pieces. 6 of the small squares. There are 2 lights shining on it right now, 1 and 2. So 6 times 2 being 12, that's a 12-point building. We do that for all of the buildings in play. Second part, you're going to score your biggest group of buildings and get 1 point per little square that makes up that whole chunk. So let's assume this is as big as it got for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to get another 10 victory points for that. Thirdly, we are going to lose several victory points, 2 or 3, I forget exactly right now, for each one you could not place. Unless you have a special ability, which is this postcard right here that says for any leftover pieces you have, you don't lose anything. Great. And then lastly, you are going to score anything for postcards that give you special victory points at the end, things like that. So let me talk about those. Okay, finish that up. This one I've already explained. It's a building extension. This one here lets you swap one building for another one in the supply and then immediately build that. This one is going to be its own street lamp. You can place that somewhere of your color and that way score even more victory points for yourself. I might put it there, let's say, and give another multiplier to that. Unfortunately, if I do that, I'm also helping my opponent, so that might not be a great spot. This one here lets me take this postcard, and in an upcoming turn, I can play one of my buildings covering one of the street lamps in play. Very aggressive move, possibly. This one is a painter. You are going to put him somewhere of your color, and then at the end of the game, the edge of the board and the edge of the buildings are going to basically trap him in an area. So for example, maybe I'll put him there. And let's say through my own building placement, he is trapped in, I'll just do that, okay? He is trapped in that area there. He is sharing a big area with 2 street lamps. He's going to get a couple of victory points for each. So that's a bonus 4 victory points at the end of the game if you take him. This one lets you turn 1 square of your opponent's color into purple, and then immediately you can build on that. And then this one I've explained, and this one here is a size 2 building, which you can treat exactly like that, like a size 2 building. So if I did that, I would put it right there, I would put one of my chimneys on it, and that would be great. It not only grows my biggest group, but it has 2 lamps that shine on it, 2 times 2 for 4 victory points. So there you go. That's how that works. And we can assume I built on this orange one if maybe I was able to take this, turn it into purple, and then build on it. That's all there is to it. Now, there are a few other of these postcards that you could play with. I'm not going to explain their powers, but they have a few differing powers on them. But you only play with 8, and these are the 8 they recommend you start with. Game's very puzzly, like I said, and hopefully that explanation makes sense. But in layman's terms, part 1, play the streets or draft the buildings. Part 2, build the buildings or take special powers. Try to get the highest score you can. So let's go back up top and let me tell you what I think of it. That is Paris, the City of Lights. So let's talk about this. I was pleasantly surprised by this one. It kind of came out of nowhere for me. I was interested and intrigued because I like Devir. I like their games typically. So I wasn't sure what to expect. And what I got was this sort of abstract-ish 2-player game that had a lot of thought in it and still felt thematic, but gave me those things I like from abstract games. Very few rules, lots of forward planning, and being tricky with your timing and placement and things like that. So let's go ahead and talk about it, okay? I will start with thematic ties. Again, it plays like an abstract game, but there is a theme there, and a good one in my opinion. I like the interplay as far as thematic ties to what's going on. I like the interplay between the buildings and the lights. I think the scoring in the game makes sense from if you removed the theme, it would still work. But I like that this theme fits. You want your buildings in prominent places, being lit, being appreciated. So it works for me. The aesthetics are very nice. This is a very well put together production. Lots of artwork. The postcards are a very nice touch. The fact that the special abilities are on the back of those, and once you've done it, then you can flip it over and it just sort of sits on the table and gives you something pretty to look at. You're not going to have a lot of time that you're not thinking. You're mostly going to be doing some thinking, but they are very well done. I like the way they look. They are evocative of the time and place that the game is attempting to take you to. So I really do enjoy these. It's a very nice touch. As far as negatives go for production, I don't like that the game is so shallow, the box that is. Because you have that insert that you play in, that stays in the box, everything has to float above that false floor, if you would. And so you have to make sure you're spreading out the pieces just right so that you can put the game away. And that's a little trickier than I wish it was, but I put up with it because it is such a nice production. Replayability mostly stems from A, the postcards, and the fact that there are a few of them you could mix in and out, but B, timing. Timing is so important in this game. I like the part 1, you have the 2 options. Part 2, you have the 2 options. And when you do what is so important. Every choice you are not taking hurts. Just as much as you are hoping to hurt your opponent with every choice you're making, I really like that. I think the replayability stays high because of that. Because the tiles are going to come out in a different order. You're going to basically have options taken from you. And you can't do everything. So it's going to stay sort of in your mind, after you've played this game for a while, I think. It certainly did for me. Game length. Great game length, great cadence. This is the rare game that has 2 distinct parts and they both feel essential and important. We still very much talk about For Sale. Small card game with 2 halves. Each, the first one affecting the second one certainly, but being very distinct. And I think the reason we still talk about that game so very much is because both of the halves work well. Neither one feels more important than the other one. I think that's true for Paris. I think both halves are important and they both feel interesting. That's a tricky balance to achieve, and so I like it very much. The ease of play, very simple turn structure. Again, it feels like an abstract game. Here are your 2-3 things you can do, but you're thinking. You're always thinking about what you're setting up for yourself, what you're leaving there for your opponent. Can I afford to go one extra turn without deploying this building in order to make sure I get that postcard? Or should I deploy the building and hope you don't take that postcard? That's what it's all about, right? But now I'm kind of talking, strategy and tactics, so I'll go there. That forward thinking, it's again, this is a short game. It's a 30-minute game, okay? I don't want to make it come across like this game is going to explode your mind. Probably not. But for a small game with not very many rules that plays in 30 minutes, I think there's a solid amount here of forward planning, of thinking strategically about what you are doing. You are, overall, not going to take that many turns in the game, right? You're playing your tiles. There's 8 of those, right? And you're going to be drafting some. So the first half might be 12 turns. The second half might be 10 turns. That's it. That's all you're doing in the game. So not that many goes. But each one is so very important. The game feels strategic. You want to set up where you're going to do things. Make sure you have the building that goes there. I've played with players that the first time out, they realized, oh, I built a scoring opportunity on the board and then forgot to take the building that goes into it. Or vice versa. And that's the kind of position this game will put you in. It is a thinky game for being a 30-minute game. So there you go. Overall, I really like it. I think it's a very well put together, impressive little game that feels just left of center as far as being quirky and unique. But I like those things about it too. It does feel different. It feels designed by someone uninterested in whether you think this is hot or not, if that makes sense. I appreciate that. And maybe I'm reading into it, but I think that's there, and I like that about it. So, bottom line from me. A game with the elegance and simplicity and mental gymnastics of an abstract, which also provides us with a beautiful time and place. This is going to get an 8 out of 10 from me, which means it's going to get a seal of approval. That is Paris, the City of Lights from Devir. Definitely check this one out if you're looking for an interesting 2-player game, and this one seems to be speaking to you. That's it for me, everybody. I'm Z Garcia. I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.